So I just want to begin with a little facts about La Mirada. You can find this for every city, Wikipedia if you want. So most people just kind of skim through this slide, but to me and the rest of my colleagues, this slide is very, very important because it shows evolution and it shows change. So if you look at it, the quick facts, we have 48,124 residents. But if you look at it, we have a majority now, Gen Z, and millennials. Well, that means that we're evolving as a city. We have close to 60% made up of Gen Z and millennials. These people grew up with technology. It's second nature for them. So how do we prepare them for the future and yet stay in the present? That is one question. The second one is we have 15,500 homes in a 7.82 square miles. So when you look at that, we start looking at density. And if you look at how the state and the federal government defines density, we're actually at, if my math is correct, it was about 2,000 homes per square mile. So we're at the lower end of a suburban area, which means that, yes, we are a great suburban city. But with all the housing mandates coming down, are we going to continue to remain a suburban city? That's the second question. And the third one is about brand identity. When you talk about La Mirada, what do people think about? Number one, we're safe. We have a great city manager, great staff. We know how to manage our finances. Over and over, we win awards for being one of the safest cities in La Mirada and being one of the most well-managed. But there are other factors and components to La Mirada. If you can see on the map, we have three things that no other cities have. Sorry, Madam Mayor, but no one else has this. We have a university right in the middle of our city, across from City Hall. Number two, we have a water park. And basically, number three, we have a world-class theater. No one else has that. And I just thought about something when I look at this. Chamber, can we do a special package for someone that wants to pay $299 and they can get a tour of Net Park? They can grab lunch at one of our beautiful restaurants. They can spend an afternoon at the water park. We arrange dinner for them, and then they can go see a theater. And then they can even stay at the Holiday Inn. What do you guys think of that? $299, that's a deal, guys. Come on, what are you waiting for? Right? Can you do that, Chamber? No? Putting you guys on the spot? All right, well, maybe next time. But 2020 was a tough year. You guys know that. 2020 was a tough year, right? It was a year of challenges. It was a year of volatility, a year of uncertainty, a year of ambiguity, and a year of just complexity, right? We lost friends, businesses shut down. It was a really, really challenging year. It tested our leadership. It tested our resolve. Okay. But City Hall, city facilities remain open. We remain open. We have virtual events. I remember holding these tubes with candies, and when cars are driving by, we would put candy in the car. Yeah, we did it. We did that. And I would be remiss standing up here telling you I'm the mayor of the city of La Mirada, but yet it's all to the staff of La Mirada. We have a very thin and lean staff. We have about 300 plus employees made up of full-time and part-time. We're a contract city, but as I was talking about earlier, a majority of our evolution is Gen Z and millennials. They are technically sound, they are entrepreneurial, and you compare that to millennials like me, to baby boomers like me, okay, where we stay in one job forever, and we work to live, and some people live to work, but most of our, I would say, 90% of our service requests now come from the My La Mirada app, which we launched in 2016. Okay. We're using social media now, and we could not have done all that without the staff. So if you are a staff from City of La Mirada, please stand and be recognized and acknowledged. I can tell you, this is such a great staff. There is no we can't do in your vocabulary. So thank you. So next, I said that Mirada is known for safety and finance. So I'm going to introduce one of the youngest city managers you have. Probably one of the best looking too, I have to say. And without further ado, here's Mr. City Manager Jeff Boyne.
Hello everybody, thanks for joining us here today. As the mayor mentioned, city manager for the city for about 8 years. I've been with Mirada for 20, so I know what you're all thinking. I started when I was 12, we're not far off. So we'll talk a little bit about city finances. It's a good topic to cover while you're eating rather than after, so you all stay awake. But Mirada, one of the hallmarks of our community, as the mayor mentioned, is the city's financial strength. We've been a financially sound community for many, many years, certainly for the entire time that I've been here, and that's a credit to all the council members and the city managers who have preceded the council here today and myself. So it's easy for us to say how strong our finances are, but it's better when we have the state auditor or a third party that mentions that. And so what we're showing on this slide is basically a financial scorecard, a report card of sorts for the city's finances. And so the state auditor provides a ranking on cities that are having difficulty with their finances. It's a financial risk scorecard. So in this case, being a higher number, which you can see Mirada is 397 of 423, is a really good thing. So we're in the top 7% of cities in the state for finances. And if you look, if you can see on the right here, there's 10 categories. Green is great, yellow is not as great, and red is, obviously not in good shape. So we have one red category that I'll explain here in a second. But the first item, general fund reserves. We have very strong general fund reserves. Truly, we could operate for a year as a city without receiving any general funds. So we have more than a year's worth of reserves that we'd be able to operate with. You can see there on the bottom bullet that this year's general fund budget is about just under $39 million in expenditures. And I think our reserves stand at about $44 million. So really strong financial shape there. Debt burden, we have very little debt. The only outstanding debt that we have is for the completion of Splash, the aquatic center. When that was built back in 2006, 2007, we did issue some bonds for that, which will be paid off in 2029, so nearing the end of that term. Liquidity, we have plenty of cash on hand. And then the revenue trends, which is the red category. So when the state auditor looks at this, one thing that doesn't show up in the numbers is for many years, or for 5 years, the city had a transactions and use tax, which many of you in the room were familiar with, known as Measure I. And so that was a tax that was put into place to address some of our infrastructure needs, and we'll talk about infrastructure in just a little bit. But when that funding went away in April of 2018, when the state auditor looks at that, they just look at the revenue going away, and so it's seen as a negative. But otherwise, the other city's financial sources, sales tax is strong, property tax, transient occupancy tax from those staying at hotels like here and residential remains strong, and of course, those getting permits and attending our theater shows and using other city services, that also remains strong. Pension obligations, so that's the next 4 categories. It's pension obligations, funding costs, and future pension costs. As the mayor mentioned, we're a contract city. So Sergeant Rodriguez, close your ears. For most cities, it's the public safety that generates the higher pension costs. For us being a contract city, we don't incur those costs. And so we remain in good shape because of that. Also, as the mayor mentioned, we only have 78 full-time staff. We have a relatively small staffing complement for a city our size, and that's because of our extensive use of contracted services. And then again, OPEB obligations and OPEB funding. OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. It refers to retiree medical costs. I don't believe Tom Robinson, our former city manager, is in the room, but I always give him credit In the early part of the 2000s, the city set aside funding for these costs, and for a number of cities, the OPEB obligation is one of the city's greatest long-term liabilities. And so the city set aside about $10 million for this purpose, and Tom Robinson must have the most clear crystal ball in terms of investments and finances, because the city began investing in the stock market at the depth of it shortly after the Great Recession, so March 2009. And so that $10 million has a market value, and I know it's been a little tricky the last couple of weeks, but of about $30 million. So we're super funded to about 130% of that obligation. So again, just another way that the city stayed in good shape. And if you know Tom Robinson, with again the market being the way it is, you might want to ask him for his advice on investments going forward. I know he holds no financial advisor certifications, but he seemed to know what he was doing. So again, just the next bullet point, 32 consecutive years that we received the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Melissa Pasquale, I believe, is in the room. She is. And she's our finance manager, does a great job with our annual comprehensive financial report. And again, that's the reason that we received the recognition for that item. I mentioned that we have a tradition of adopting balanced budgets. The city saves first, then spends second, which leaves us in good financial shape. And you can see again, from this budget year, we estimate that when we adopted the budget, that we'd be about $1 million to the positive. It'll probably end in even a better condition than that. So last year we had a surplus of about $2.5–3 million, and that was during the pandemic year. So we finished pretty strong. Again, as the mayor mentioned, adjusting to COVID, every single one of us in this room were affected by it in some way. It affected our business operations, our schools, our homes, families, churches. There wasn't an area of society that wasn't affected by it. I know we're still dealing with the lingering effects. Certainly for the city, that was something that we've dealt with. But uniquely as a city, when it first began, the pandemic first began, and everyone was becoming aware of it in the springtime of 2020, the city, like a number of cities, did shut down City Hall and our facilities for a few weeks. But we were back up and operating in June. We were one of the first cities that came back online and had our council meetings as normal, in person. We obviously took precautions. You can see in some of the photos here, the partitions, the masks, those types of things. But really tried to get back to normal as much as possible. I know a lot of places have people that were working from home. Being a small staff and having a space where we could continue to operate in person, we chose to do that, and it worked for us. All of our public works crews, our public safety staff continued working, and really we tried to limit the disruptions as much as possible to continue providing a service to our community. We did do some unique things. The council did adopt programs to allow for outdoor dining and commercial services. Right there at Rev Taco is an example. We all saw this throughout Southern California, even the country, about how restaurants especially had to adapt to some of the health code regulations that were placed on them. So we did that to really try to help them out. And something else that was done is we very quickly, and this is a credit to Gabriel Batista, our community development director, we implemented a digital project submittal for plans and permits. So it was something that I think it was completely done through Outlook, if I'm not mistaken. So just an email system, which isn't the the best way to do that, but he made it work, and over 1,600 projects were processed as a result of that. We've ended that in July of 2021, and we're back to normal, but certainly a feat. And then, as the mayor mentioned again, the virtual events. We did a lot of drive-through events for our Chili Holiday event, which is our Christmas time event, Halloween Fest as well. That's what the photo is on the top right. Just trying to find a way to continue building community during a difficult time. So as a city, like I mentioned, there was a lot of funding that came to businesses, obviously, which was a great thing to help businesses stay in operation. And as a city, for the first time during the pandemic, local governments received direct funding from the feds, which hadn't ever happened before. La Mirada's allocation through the American Rescue Plan Act was $11.5 million. We also, having a theater, we were the recipient of just under $4 million through the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which was a special pot of funding for live performance venues and such, entertainment venues, movie theaters, those kinds of things that were significantly affected through the pandemic. And through the CARES Act as well, we received just a little over $600,000, which helped pay for some of the partitions, PPE, those kinds of things. And so, for the American Rescue Plan, it's great to receive that money. And again, as I mentioned earlier, because the city's so financially sound, it's one of those things where we've been prepared for an emergency and we're able to address it. So in some ways, this funding will help us to address other issues that we'll talk about a little bit later. We're not going to rely upon it to continue our operations. And then the final slide before I turn it over to back to the mayor is just to talk a little bit about the business and resident assistance programs that we've provided here in La Mirada. So about $1 million has been made available for mortgage, rental, and business relief. On the left side are previous programs that are no longer available, but during kind of the really difficult part of the pandemic, when businesses weren't allowed to operate and many people received furlough and layoff notices, we implemented a mortgage rental assistance grant program. So we were able to assist 47 households with about $157,000 in funding. And that funding came from CDBG. The city of La Mirada is a non-entitlement city, so we receive community development block grant funding, and it comes through the county to La Mirada. Another part of that was the bottom part, the small business assistance grant program, where we had 33 businesses that each received $10,000 grants for impacts incurred by COVID. And then a smaller business relief program that we implemented using our CARES Act funding. That program had very low interest. I think by that time many businesses had already received some of the federal funding, but we still helped 2 businesses. I think each got $5,000. And there's a couple more programs that we're implementing. A lot of this is through the American Rescue Plan. And so the top part is, again, another mortgage assistance program where we're providing $150,000 for grants up to $5,000 for our residents. A restaurant assistance program, again, one of the industries hit hardest during the pandemic. So we have $300,000 allocated for grants to restaurants that have experienced hardships due to the pandemic. And then the final 2 are a rental assistance grant and an accessibility modification grant. A total of about a little over $400,000 that's available. And that's through the PLHA funding, which is a state program to help with those who are renting and need some assistance. And then those who might be aging in their homes and need some upgrades, wheelchair ramps, handrails, those types of things that we're going to make available as well. So I have a lot of uses for this federal and state assistance that we're making good use of. With that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. 2 big takeaways from what Jeff just talked about. Number 1, Mayor Medrano and Mayor Pacheco, he's not available. He's on a long-term contract as the city manager, so no, he's not a free agent by any means. Okay. Number 2 is Jeff and I are going to get 10% of any new business that Tom Robinson gets moving forward. Okay. And finally, his beautiful wife, Katie's not here, but he's off the market, single ladies. So with that, I just want to introduce, next, I want to introduce a very important person. Actually, one of the foundations of La Mirada is how safe our city is, and he keeps our city safe. So I want to introduce Area Sergeant Oscar Rodriguez.
Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Oscar Rodriguez. I'm the Service Area Sergeant here in the city of La Mirada. Essentially, I oversee all the law enforcement operations here, the services that we provide from the Sheriff's Department. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 15 years and working in La Mirada specifically for 2.5 years, first as the SAO Sergeant and now as your Service Area Sergeant. So if you have any issues that you see regarding public safety that need to be addressed, law enforcement, I would be your contact person. Like I said, I've been here 2.5 years working with the city, and it's been a pleasure and an honor. I've never worked, or to this point in my career, I haven't worked with a city that's been so supportive of law enforcement. And I think that's key to our success here in La Mirada, is that we have that collaboration where we have the backing from our city staff and our city council, and that absolutely helps to make our job a lot easier. And it also You know, it makes it a pleasure really to serve a community that appreciates law enforcement, that appreciates public safety, because that's what we're here for. You know? So we're going to talk about some of our stats here in the city and the crime rate. So this is our Part 1 crimes, which covers such crimes as murder, rape, robberies, grand theft. As you can see here, for 2021, we had 813 total Part 1 crimes. That is our 4th lowest crime rate in 10 years. So last year we had our 3rd, and the year before that we had our 2nd lowest. So unfortunately we climbed a little bit. These are still very, very great numbers, and we're very proud of what we're doing here. And we hope to bring that down for this year. Per Part 1 crimes per 10,000 residents, our standard is to keep it below 200. As you can see here, we're way below 200 for this year. It's 168.9 for every 10,000 residents who experienced Part 1 crime. The previous year was 164. This year we ranked number 38 in the California's number 38 largest safest city. Number 38 out of approximately about 230 cities in California. So, I mean, that's an amazing feat, and we're very proud of that. Again, concentrating on Part 1 crimes, this is what this year compares to the previous year. And in almost every single category, crime went down, with the exception of larceny, which includes all theft, from grand theft to petty theft, and auto theft. So those were our 2 biggest issues here in the city. As you can see, they both went up, not too substantially, but enough to affect our crime statistics this year. Again, previous Part 1 crimes compared this year to the previous year. As you can see, our crimes against persons actually went down, which is good to see, because the last thing we want to see is our residents being assaulted, being injured, coming across violent offenders. And as you can see here, as I pointed out before, our crimes against property went up. And one of our biggest challenges in this environment that we're facing, our biggest crime properties is catalytic converter theft. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. And auto thefts. So those are our 2 biggest challenges right now in regards to crime. But again, our crimes against persons went down, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see that number going up. Our response times. In the blue, we have 2020 response times, and the yellow is 2021. For our emergency and priority response, it went slightly up, almost insignificant. And then we basically matched our routine response. So let me explain a little bit of what emergency, priority, and routine are. So emergency response times are, there's an emergency going on, there's a crime happening now, someone's being hurt, someone's breaking into a house. Those are emergency responses. Those take basically priority over every other call. And then we have our priority calls, which, hey, there's a guy, suspicious. We think he may be breaking into a car. That, he doesn't belong in the neighborhood. That is what we classify as a priority call, and we make it a point to try to get to that call as soon as possible. And then we have our routine calls where, hey, I woke up this morning, my window's broken, I need a report. So we can take a little bit more time to respond to those, because we prioritize emergency and priority calls in that order. Again, our goal is to keep our residents safe. Crime trends. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but again, our biggest crime trends right now that we're dealing with are vehicle thefts. And this is not an exclusive thing to the city of La Mirada. I think every city in the state is experiencing the rise in these property crimes. So we have theft from vehicles, petty thefts from businesses, so that's your shoplifting. We've been lucky here in the city of La Mirada that we haven't had those string of, smash and grab robberies, what they call, compared to other cities. So we're very proud of that. Catalytic converter thefts and grand theft automobiles. Crime prevention. What can we do as a city to continue this, low crime rate? One of the most important part is to be proactive, okay, and get involved. So what does that entail? Being proactive. So that entails things like, making sure you lock your doors, car doors, car windows, the doors to your house, keeping valuables out of view in your vehicles, things like that. And now one of the most important things to do is getting involved politically, educating yourself politically, making sure that you're supporting the right proposition, the right, that you inform yourselves about the laws, what you're voting for, because that's one of the biggest challenges that we're facing as law enforcement is, the passage of Proposition like 47, 57 has made it way easier for criminals to kind of just cycle through the justice system. And a lot of the individuals committing the crimes are the same individuals committing the crimes over and over. I'll give you an example. Last year we had an individual that was arrested 12 times for vehicle theft. And it wasn't until the 12th time that he finally, got filed on. So that's one of the issues. Again, these crimes, these laws have made it a lot easier for these individuals just to cycle through. So supporting, candidates that favor public safety, that make public safety a priority. Here in the city of La Mirada, we're lucky because we have, again, city staff, city council members that their number one priority is public safety. Number one priority. That is their number one priority because you can't have a safe city. You can't have businesses thriving if there is no order on the streets. So, and again, I've encountered that firsthand dealing directly with council, with city staff, and it's great. It really is. It makes our job way easier. We also have a very active neighborhood watch. That's us attending, this is our SAO team. And we're here attending a neighborhood watch meeting. What we like to do is we like to inform the community of crime trends. We also like to inform them. If they have any questions regarding crime trends or anything like that, we're there to educate them on how to keep themselves safe, how to keep their families safe, how to keep their property safe. And I believe you can join or gather more information regarding how to join the neighborhood watch meeting through the city's website. Reporting suspicious activity, that's also very important for us. You guys live in the neighborhood, you own your businesses, you know who your employees are. We're not that familiar. We're driving down the street and we see someone in your parking lot or walking your neighborhood. We don't know if that person belongs there, but you guys do. So if you see someone or something that looks suspicious, don't hesitate to call us, to contact us. Hey, this guy seems out of place. I've never seen him before, or you saw him looking through a window. Those are the things that help us to keep crime rate down. We like to be proactive, not reactive. I'd rather address an individual that's suspicious and maybe scare them off, as opposed to having to respond and deal with a victim that just got life savings stolen from their house or valuables from their vehicles. It's not fun to be a victim, and that's part of why I do what I do. I was victimized as a kid. Our home was burglarized, and it's one of the most awful feelings that an individual can go through. You feel so violated, and that's what we try to, or at least that's my goal, to try to avoid people becoming victims, because it's not fun. Also, the city has a La Mirada app. You can report any suspicious activities, any crimes through the app. So they're making many ways to contact us, not only through the station, through the phone number, but we also have an app that you can use. And again, protect your property. Don't leave valuables out in the open, in plain view in your vehicles. That's one of the biggest motivators for individuals to break in. If they don't see anything inside your car, they'll move on to the next one. I've seen cars getting broken into for a car charger, a phone charger. I'm sorry, for a phone charger. So even something as simple as a phone charger, tuck it away, put it in the glove box, put it in the center console. Protect your property. Don't leave valuables or expensive bicycles out. Make sure you close your garage doors, because unfortunately, it's that easy nowadays. There's no, again, property crime is not really looked upon as bad by the justice system nowadays. I think, to me, it's a travesty, because, again, being victimized is not fun. Installing security cameras or security systems in your home or your business. If you decide to do that route, please make sure that you get good quality cameras and that they're positioned in the right place. Because you can have a camera system, and if the quality's not good, it's not really going to do or serve its purpose. And if they're not positioned in the right place, you're also not going to catch license plates or suspect descriptions and things like that. And if you have questions about things like that, you can reach out to us and we can give you some direction. Hey, maybe you might want to install it here or here, this, these type of items. So. And our public safety standards. So again, the city of La Mirada, the public safety is their highest priority, as is mine. And our standards is we like to maintain our crime rate, our Part 1 crime rate, at 200 crimes per every 10,000 residents, which we have way exceeded. And we're very proud of that. And we continue to work on lowering that number even more. Again, our goals, some of our goals for this year is to address those property crime issues, specifically the grand theft auto and the catalytic converter thefts. This is our SAO team. Our SAO team has been one of the biggest reasons for our success here. They're a very proactive team. I think if you guys follow us on social media, you've seen some of the arrests that they've made. Very impressive with the amount of deputies that we have, the type of crimes that they've solved and that they've gone after. It's incredible. They're doing a phenomenal job. And our goal this year for them is to focus on grand theft auto suspects and catalytic converter thefts, and they've already actually identified most of the players. So hopefully this year our goal is to take them down and continue to put pressure on them. And then enhanced visibility, that's our goal again, more boots on the ground, more presence, because that's one of the biggest deterrents to crime, to make sure that we're out there, that we're visible. That's why we need you guys' help as a community, especially the business community. Around here specifically, the auto theft is actually the highest in this area. And one of the challenges that we face here is, again, we see an individual walk into the parking lot. We don't know if he's an employee or if he's just someone suspicious. Sometimes you can point him out, but sometimes you can't. We definitely appreciate your help and you guys helping us out. Again, one of our other goals is to lower our response times. We want to be there as fast as we can to catch these individuals. Of course, so you guys don't have to wait around too long either. I talked about the SAO team already. And again, one of our biggest challenges this year, the past couple of years, has been the justice system, where it's just been a revolving doors for these individuals, and it can get a little frustrating sometimes. But our team here, our public safety team, is dedicated. We're still enforcing the laws, no matter what anyone else does down the chain, whether it's the DA or the state, whatever the laws are. We're going to do our job. And that's our commitment to you guys. That's our promise that we will do our job. And then also, again, using social media to educate residents' business. If you don't follow us on Twitter, Facebook. The city has a public safety website as well. That way you can stay informed and up up to date on what the crime trends are and stuff like that. So, and that is, I believe, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. So there are a lot of takeaways from this. The first one is, you don't have to be good looking to work a lawnmower. I know Oscar's got the GQ haircut and Jeff looks great, but you really don't have to. So, but that doesn't mean that I want everyone to apply at one time, okay? So, but honestly, let's talk about some of the takeaways. 30 years ago, my wife and I moved to La Mirada, and basically get away from my parents, because in a Chinese family, they can come into your house anytime they want. So, but with $500 in our pocket, we wanted to look for a place that's safe, that we can walk our dogs at night. And we found it here in La Mirada. And nothing, I can tell you, nothing makes me more angry than to see criminals out there going through a revolving door. That they go in one door and they come out the next day. We know exactly where they live, and yet we can't arrest them. That thing makes me more angry. I skip a word, but you can fill in the blank than that. So really, nothing makes me more angry than that. And I just want to keep this slide up here because Oscar talked about some of the ways that we can, that the community and the city is helping our law enforcement to keep our city safe. In 2016, we launched My La Mirada app. And today, it's been growing. People are signing up. Most of the service requests are coming to La Mirada. So if you haven't signed up yet, please sign up for it. Only in La Mirada. Other cities, of course, you have your own tool for that. And we also gave away ring.com. We gave away, I think, 2 times at National Safety Month, or Safety Day, that we start giving away ring.com. And our Mayor Pro Tem is a LAPD captain. So, yeah. So he knows that, public safety is very important, And then we also equip all the patrol cars with ALPR systems, automatic plate license recognition systems. They're computer laptops or notebooks that actually is installed in the patrol cars, so they start scanning license plates at 300-400 plates a minute. So we've done that. Now we also, La Mirada is a cat city, right? Dog city, basically. So we actually started a canine program. So we actually train people to when they walk their dogs at night, to spot suspicious activities. So we've done our share with it, and thank you, Oscar, for keeping us safe. And like I said, personally, and I think the city will agree with me, that if you don't feel safe walking your dog at night, you don't feel safe jogging at night, or whatever it is you choose to do in public, if you don't feel safe doing that, you can aspire for greater things. And that's what we are. Why public safety is the foundation of La Mirada. That's why. So with that, thank you. So with that, I just want to briefly talk about why La Mirada is one of the most desirable places to do business. I'm going to be honest, I also shop in the harbor, maybe Mirada, because just to let you know, I love Sam's Club. Okay, I hate parking, getting gas at Sam's Club, because with the line here, McDonald's and Sam's, there's kind of a war zone there. So, but I shop elsewhere. But La Mirada is a very, very desirable place to do business. We are right in the middle of LA and Orange County. Why is that important? Well, we're convenient to big cities, right? But yet we have the small charm, authentic, suburban environment. We really do, and that's a plus. My wife and I haven't done it in a couple months. My wife and I, we drive half an hour, and we hit Huntington Beach. We can grab the bike easily, walk around the beach, take our selfies, and have a great time. Right? I'm not a skier, so I never go to the mountains. But we're just half an hour to an hour away from almost everything. And yet we come home, you know what, we're the city of La Mirada, where all the lights are out at 9 o'clock. Okay? but we have great streets. People walk their dogs, people jog. That's the best of both worlds. Okay, don't use that, Mayor Pacheco. Do not use that. We have the lowest sales tax rate in the whole LA County at 9.5%. So that is amazing, I think. Twice, we were named most business-friendly city by LAEDC, LA Economic Development Corporation. And how they do that is basically how much a city contributes to the region and how easy it is to do business with. And yes, we won it twice. And just so happened both times, Councilman DeRoos was the mayor, and so I had to give it to him. So yeah, glow all you want, Councilman DeRoos. Okay. And we have very low business license fees, and the truth is we haven't raised our fees in centuries. I haven't been around that long, but decades maybe. Okay, and we really haven't. So that makes La Mirada a very desirable place to do business with. Okay, business success, and Mayor Pacheco and Mayor Mirada will agree with me on this. So the lifeline of the city comes from three components, right? It comes from sales tax, property tax, and fees, right? Those are the three areas. In La Mirada, it's almost one-third, almost. But the most consistent form, the backbone of your property tax revenue, is property tax. It's the most consistent, okay? So I'm not going to go through each bullet, but you can see we're at almost $8 billion of assessed valuation, which has increased of 3%, which means that our property tax revenue is pretty strong. If you look at the activities, we have 2,300 business licenses. We have ongoing residential, commercial, and industrial developments down the pipeline. That means there are a lot of activities. That means our fees are getting stronger and stronger. And sales tax, we increased by 14.5%. That's not really something we can control, but it's something we can manage. And like I said, I give all the credit to Jeff and his staff for managing our finances. So as you can see, we're very strong with that. And unemployment rate, I don't think we can use the last couple of years as a gauge, just because it's just, up and down like the stock market, right, so far. So with that, I think we are primed for a breakout 2022. Good. We really are. Okay, just shout out to Wilmington Homes. I know you're here. And I know you bought a table, so I have to say that. Okay. But actually, I personally tour this development. There's 39 townhomes, and they're beautiful. Would I live there? I would. Would my wife let me live there? No. But it's 39 luxury townhomes, and they are, if I recall correctly, in the upper 700s, right? Wilmington, right? Upper 700. Oh, right there, yeah. Beautiful townhomes. Just, I think the plans I view, most of them have views, as a matter of fact. Beautiful. So welcome to La Mirada, and thank you for choosing La Mirada. So thank you for that. And Olsen Company, Laurel Walk Homes. Olsen, you have representative here? Okay, then I won't say, I'll skip this slide. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, these are 56 contemporary townhomes. And as I recall, they're 2- and 3-story townhomes between 1,200 and 1,700 square feet. Beautiful. I told you guys I'm going to say the wrong things. That's why they don't give me a script, but it's all good. And if you want, anybody from Charlie Apartments home here? No, this is what I call integrated luxury living, basically apartments. But it's actually it's beautiful. It has balconies, common areas. So we thank you for coming to La Mirada. Next, we have infrastructure. So I'm going to turn that over to our city manager because I need water, I need to eat, I'm hungry. So here you go, Jeff.
Okay, so moving along here, as I mentioned earlier, you're kind of seeing the pillars of La Mirada: public safety, strong finances, and probably the third leg of that stool would be infrastructure. And so the last couple of years have been very busy for the city. I mentioned earlier that back in November 2012, voters approved the transactions and use tax, which helped to fund many street improvements that we'll talk about in the next slide. But probably over the last 7-8 years, we've adopted capital improvement programs of about $17 to $22 million, which is a lot of investment in things like streets, roads, storm drains, traffic signals, street lights. So these are the things that nobody really thinks about until something goes wrong. And so in La Mirada, you've probably noticed our streets are in excellent condition, among the best around. We really focus on that. Mark Stoll, our public works director, and his crews do a tremendous job making sure that our streets and roads are in good shape. We had, within the last year, Southern California Edison replaced all the street lights with the LED lights, which we see throughout our neighborhoods and along our arterials. New street signs, which you can see here in the photos, and traffic signals. We've done major corridor traffic signal improvements along Imperial Highway, La Mirada Boulevard. This year it will be Santa Gertrudis Avenue. So really trying to focus on just making sure our infrastructure is modernized. Landscaped arterial street medians, that's another area of La Mirada that's always very well received within the community. Within the last few years, we've improved, most recently, Valley View Avenue, but also Rosecrans Avenue and La Mirada Boulevard. And among some residents, Imperial Highway is often mentioned as a favorite. Something that's important to the kids in the community, all the city parks have had new playgrounds put in within the last 5 years. So that's six playgrounds at our neighborhood parks. And also a project as a result of the I-5 freeway project to offset the carbon emissions from expanding the freeway. We received, as did Downey, Commerce, Norwalk, and Santa Fe Springs, all the cities that are within the I-5 corridor, over about 1,200 street trees. So you've seen those throughout the community. And many of them by the schools, the elementary schools, middle schools, but also within our parks. Creek Park especially received quite a few trees planted within the last year. So I mentioned our focus on streets, and truly every residential street in La Mirada has been touched within the last 8 years. So some of that is a slurry seal, which is the protective wearing course on the top of the surface. It's like an oil. You've seen that being done. But most neighborhoods have actually received a rehabilitation or a reconstruction, just depending on the condition of the street. And so the map there on the left, if you can make it out, obviously it's the city. So everything that's within a color is a phase of neighborhood improvement. So most of those have been completed. Most recently, it's the area that is by Kling Center or Heights Christian Middle School that was completed late last year. We're getting ready to start on Phase 6B, which is the neighborhood just north of Biola University, bounded by Biola, Imperial, and La Mirada Boulevard. But most of the city has been improved. The neighborhood just to the west of Valley View Avenue was actually the first neighborhood that had its streets reconstructed, and that was through redevelopment agency bond proceeds. That was done in about 2010 through 2014. So really, again, a focus of the community, and it's not just the streets, it's the sidewalks, the curbs, the gutters, the storm drains, reinforcing those to ensure they don't fail and create sinkholes. So really just doing a great job, and again, the credit goes to Mark Stoll and his crew for making sure that we stay on track with that. Probably one of the greatest things that will happen in 2022 is that the I-5 freeway in La Mirada will be completed. We're looking forward to that. So I remember in this room, some of you may have been here for it. We used to do business social meetings, and the focus was always on the 5 at that point. This is about 10 years ago. It was how would the 5 expansion impact our community, and so certainly there were right-of-way impacts. Again, like Downey's they're coming up, but Santa Fe Springs, Norwalk have experienced as well. So we're kind of the last leg of the first phase of this improvement. So here you can see in the photo on the Valley View Bridge is spanning from left to right. We do have kind of coming down toward us under construction. That's going to be a ramp connecting to South Firestone from Valley View. And then the other ramp to the right is the southbound on-ramp. And so again, they're finishing up. Some milestones that are in the very near future is the Valley View Bridge lanes are supposed to be open in March. Originally that was going to be February, but like everybody else, their crews have been impacted by COVID, so they've been delayed just a little bit. But they will have all 6 lanes open, hopefully in March here. And again, as part of that, the southbound connector, which I mentioned from Valley View, that should closely follow the opening of all the freeway, the bridge lanes, excuse me. And then again, most importantly, the project should be completed in 2022. And then after that, Caltrans will go through its right-of-way disposition process, and some of the remnant parcels along the freeway will hopefully get developed with quality uses that would benefit our community. And again, just really quickly, I mentioned the median landscape renovation. These photos in the next couple slides came from a presentation that Public Works Director gave at a city council meeting recently. Again, some of the trees that were within our medians were older, the roots were disrupting the pavement, and also new state laws reduced the amount of water that could be used on public street medians, so we had to make some adjustments, which is the reason we've recently done these improvements along Rosecrans, La Mirada, and Valley View Avenue, but they look great. La Mirada, especially if you drive it, you'll notice that the trees are growing quite well. Certainly the rains that we had in December and the warmer weather have helped out, but they really do look good, and it's a nice improvement for our community. Alondra Boulevard street improvements, again, this just shows this was a rehab project. I know for a lot of the businesses, Alondra takes you from our residential neighborhoods on the east side, and it goes into the industrial area here to the west. So an important improvement, just improving the surfaces of the street along with the sidewalk enhancements as well. Quality project that, again, Public Works crews managed. Also slurry seal, I mentioned that, the two streets that were improved most recently were Hillsborough Drive and Santa Gertrudis Avenue. You can see it looks sharp, the striping goes in, it looks really attractive, and again, it helps to preserve the streets so we're not making more costly improvements down the road. And then right here, just a quick note, so this industrial streets, so everything essentially south of Stage Road and that little portion of Alondra, which is actually a residential neighborhood, those will all be improved here within the next couple of months. We'll get started on that. Slurry seal projects are done during the warmer weather, but it is important to maintain our industrial streets. That's something that businesses that look to come into town want to see how we're preserving our infrastructure. So that will happen again later this year. And future improvements, I mentioned the neighborhood street improvements in 6B, again the neighborhood north of Loyola University. Creek Park, we have some bridge improvements that are going to begin. Our Assembly member Elisa Calderon provided an $800,000 grant, which will help with that project. We also have a master plan that was completed that will provide a lot of improvements to that park here in the next couple of years. We're moving forward with designing those improvements that are within the plan, which will be great for the community. Creek Park is heavily used by a number of different groups. A lot of people go there to take photos. There's a number of events that are held there, and people enjoy walking there. It's a great place to do that. Valley View and Rosecrans Avenue will have some intersection improvements here coming up, part of the I-605 hotspots improvement. We're doing some city entrance and wayfinding signs. I mentioned previously the street signs that were replaced recently. This will be along the same lines. You can see photos of what those are, and those will be improved, replaced, just to get rid of the fading on the existing signs. And then lastly, I mentioned the American Rescue Plan Act funds. One of the ways that we're using those funds is to make some energy conservation and efficiency improvements. So these are things like LED lights at our Behringer Park and Los Coyotes middle school sports fields. Doing that, putting some solar panels potentially in the parking lot in the Civic Center. Energy, EV charging stations for the electric vehicles. And also just general improvements within lighting, building automation, HVAC systems throughout our city facilities. So something we're looking forward to within the next year to 2 years. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. So for our business community, I hope that the investment in infrastructure will help with your supply chain and logistics, that you can move your inventory, your supplies in a more efficient manner. And for our residents here, I hope the investment in infrastructure will help you feel connected, give you that sense of community. So thank you, Jeff, for that. But honestly, after the 2 or 3 years that we had, nothing is more important than this, community building. After the last 2 or 3 years, one of the most important things that we need to do is start connecting with people. And nothing really matters if we're not connecting with people and building that sense of community. So we are back Okay. In addition to these events, I'll just see if I can rattle off a bunch of communities. In April, we have Spring Beautification Contest. We have Easter Hunt. In May, we have Mother and Daughter Dance. June, we have Concert Under the Stars. July, we have Independence Day. August, we have Father and Son camping. Right? September, we have Community Health Fair. October, we have Halloween Fest. November, we have Salute to the Veterans. December, we have Chili Holiday and Polar Bear Plunge. January, we have State of the City. So, and that's in addition to everything that I talked about. We are back. So, it's great to be connecting with people through these events. Buccaneer Bay opens. We added a new 6-lane bat rider and 2 altitude slides, and I can attest to that. I went down on opening day. I did. I was in my swim shorts and t-shirt. Yeah, and it was really exhilarating. It was amazing. Okay, Oliver, our community services director, is here. This guy is pretty innovative. Everything we need to do, when we need to pivot to virtual, he did it. When we need to renew the water park, we came up with this. So great job. I'm just so glad this is happening. Life keeps getting better. Our city council, John Lewis, kept pushing for this, and I'm so glad his perseverance paid off, John. Congratulations. And this afternoon at 4 o'clock, you won't be fed dinner, but we do have an official opening of the community garden. So eat before you come and go eat afterwards. We're going to start. So John, congratulations. It's going to be at the Frontier Park. We have farmers market in spring, March, April timeframe, and that's going to be wonderful. Those of you who eat bad like me, now you get fresh produce, and you can come and shop, and there'll be crafts, food, everything you can think of. And utility box art, a lot of cities are already doing this, but because of the rich history of La Mirada, we wanted to wait. Okay, and now we're going to do it because now we're communities involved, and it's going to be a great contest. Partners in education, Biola. They just rededicated their building to art. It's a state-of-the-art building. Councilman Lewis and I toured that building. We're going to help revive the art in our community, so that's great. Our partners here from the Norwalk La Mirada School District, Unified School District, Youth in Government, award-winning government. We teach kids how to look at public policy, community service. We do all of that. And not only that, some of our greatest students, some of our best students came out of that. We have students who went on to play professional baseball, professional basketball, something I wanted to do. But when I was capped at 5'9", I knew that wasn't it for me. But it's not about me, right? It's about education. So anyways, youth in government, people went on to D1, take Division I. We have people teaching at Harvard now, right? We have professors at Harvard. We have some entrepreneurs, CEOs of digital marketing, and we have people who work for the most valuable companies. This is a great school district, and we have a great relationship with them. And we're going to launch more and more programs, right? With the SAT going away, we got to find ways to help our students. So that is great. Congratulations. Wow. Those of you who lost your loving feeling, the Righteous Brothers are back. Okay, I think it's going to be in March, and I see a lot of you want to raise your hand, but please don't. I don't care if you lost your loving feeling or not. I don't. Just go see the show. Just go see it. $1 Million Quartet. Wear your blue suede shoes. I did, and it was fabulous. It's an untold story behind the scenes, and I won't give it all away, but if you go see it, you will not be disappointed. And one of the most enduring, iconic movies of all time, Sound of Music. My wife will never let me forget it. It's coming in spring. It's going to be great. And then we have In the Heights, put on by the producer of Hamilton, that everybody talks about, but no one's really seen it because you can't get tickets. But we're bringing it here in the Heights. So, anyways, come see it. Progress continues. While we had the pandemic, all that was going on, we didn't stop. We had a very creative theater director, BT, with his mask on back there from New York. So, Senator on the Mayor, BT here today. We updated the green room. All the seats were renovated. There's not a bad seat in the house, guys. There really isn't. You know, all the seats are positioned so that you can see, you know, the show of Ness. You see it in the back of Anthony Otero, and you can see a thing. The guy is this tall. I mean, what can I say? Upgrade sound system. I won't promise you, experience like putting on beats, but it's pretty close. So come see it. Everything is renovated. Okay? You can't handle the truth. Okay? A few good men is here. You can't handle the truth, guys. Come see it. Greece, those of you who have someone named Sandy, come see it. Summer nights. But so that's on also. Greece. Coming attractions, the Upper Lounge is going to be for smaller venues. Okay? Where's Masters of Harmony? Right there. So you might have a career there, unless you might want to start charging. Okay. In that case, 10% goes to your manager. Newman Brothers, the fabulous Newman Brothers. One of them is here. These guys are so talented, and I look forward to you guys performing there. Right? Okay. Outside of the theater, there's going to be a little transformation, I call it. There's going to be a cafe. Those of you who want to watch the show before the show, get something to eat before the show or afterwards, that's going to be available. It's not going to look like this, but it's going to look somewhat similar. Okay. Why do we do this? Okay. Let's be serious for a little while, if I can. So, when the pandemic hit, the city manager, the assistant city manager, Ann Erickson, who was sitting right in front, and all the city council, we went into a retreat and said, we need to start looking at what we need to do, how we can respond to the pandemic, and what we need to do moving forward. And we look at what makes La Mirada, the place, a desirable place to live, to play, and to work. And we decided that we don't have to change anything because the 5 pillars of quality is still alive and well. We still believe that the foundation starts with feeling safe in the city, number one. We believe that the best way to earn your trust is to manage our finances the best way we know how. And we've done it. The third thing is, number 3, infrastructure. People and businesses want to feel like they are safe. They want that pride of ownership when they come home. They want safe streets, they want paved streets, and they want a city free of graffiti. We've done it. And number 4, economic development. How do we empower our businesses so that we can support them in expanding their capabilities and expansion, and basically support them in their endeavors? How do we attract more businesses? And finally, nothing matters if we don't do it for our people, the residents that we serve every day. So nothing really matters. And you know what's the most important thing is humanity is alive and well. During the pandemic, David Newman, David, want to stand up? David Newman. This guy, 3 months later, he said, I'm launching a senior care package program. And he did, along with partners from Grocery Outlet, Amanda and Stephen. The vocabulary of no, you can't do it is not there. It's not in their vocabulary. They went and launched that. Deputy Acosta, you know what? She saw a more mature woman in need, and she organized her friends and neighbors, and they went and cleaned up this person's house, painted the house, cleaned up all the lawn, and I'm hiring her next. But anyways, she did that. Greg Stone, said, you know what, we need one day in Mirada to serve the city and the residents. We want to go around the city and clean everything up. He did that, okay? Humanity is alive and well. And that's why I know that if we all work together, we all work collaboratively, we all put our differences aside, man, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. So thank you for coming. Go and mingle. And thank you, Chamber of La Mirada, for putting this event on. It's a chance for us to get together to talk about how we can work together, cooperatively, collaboratively, and build a better future for our kids, for ourselves, and for the future generation. So thank you again. One more thing. I have a special presentation. So most of you know that I've studied leadership for about 3 years now. If you Google leadership, you get about 4.3 billion hits. Okay, so I know a thing or two about leadership. And if you look at, I didn't go through all 4.3 billion, but I went through enough articles out there. And if you look at leadership, there are 5 components or elements that leadership encompasses. Number 1, a leader's got to have vision, got to have charisma, you got to be able to connect with people. You got to have integrity, people's got to trust you. And you got to be competent, people got to follow you because they know you can do the job. But one of the most underlooked quality attribute is optimism. You got to be optimistic. When things aren't going right, you got to stand tall. And you got to stand your ground and say, I believe in something so much that I'm going to continue moving forward. Okay. The chamber was on its last legs. Real estate professionals would call it, it's being foreclosed. Okay, but this person did not give up. He stood tall. He believed in what he did. And today, we have our event, the first annual State of the City. And I want to present a plaque to Richard Trujillo. So Richard, on behalf of the city of Lifeline, and I don't even know what it says, and I'm not going to read it, but you've been a friend for a while now. You're not my insurance agent, but hopefully that will change soon. But honestly, Richard, I think since I've been on council, everybody said that the council is the chamber is on its last legs, and I think without you, it will probably be done. But you never gave up hope. Your optimism is what all leaders need. So congratulations.
Thank you. I can't say anything. Tammy, would you like to come up? Just say a second.
He's a Kiwanian, but I'm going to say I'm a member of the varsity team, and I am a proud Rotarian.
Tammy is our new incoming president. Welcome.
Okay, that's it, and I just want to invite, thank you again, Rich. This is a monumental event, and like I said, honestly, I was joking, but I'm so happy to see every one of you, and even the wedding crashers. So with that, I just want to introduce the new incoming president, Tammy Mcdove, and we look forward to big and great things from you. You want to say a few words?
No, you guys go home.
All right, got it. All right, thank you for coming.
paradise to be in La Mirada. And when the moonlight in the sky reflects the love light in your eyes, you'll know that love will never die in La Mirada.